In this video, we're going to focus on loops. We're going to introduce loops, and we're going to learn about the while loop, W-H-I-L-E, in this section. We're also going to introduce a few other topics, but primarily focus on the while loop. So in our coding so far, we've learned about, as far as execution of code goes, we've learned about sequence, which is where we execute code from top to bottom. For instance, if we press a button and it goes into an event handler, then that event handler code gets executed from the top. Once we enter the event handler, it goes from the top of the event handler down to the bottom and then quits the event handler. So it just goes straight from the top down to the bottom. The next thing we learned about was how to make decisions, and the primary construct for that is the if statement and all its variants, if else and also else. And there we're still executing code top to bottom, but now we're making decisions about, well, am I going to execute this piece of code or that piece of code, or maybe none of it. So that is selection. All right, so making decisions. And then so finally, with loops, we're still going top to bottom, but now we're making decisions about, are we going to repeat this bit of code? So that's what looping is about. All right. So before we get into loops, we want to introduce a new control, and that control is the Listbox. Now in this example that I have here, I'm looking at the car payment calculator, so that's one of the examples in this topic that we will build as we go. We'll see it more advanced form of it later on, but right now, just to explain what's going on here, we've got a text box for a car price, so the total price for the car, another text box for the down payment amount, and then a text box for the annual interest rate, so the interest rate on the loan. When the user presses the calculate button, what's going to happen is it's going to spit out down here in this list box. It's going to give us output, and that output is going to be details about what the car payment is going to be based on the length of the loan, so how many years the loan is. All right, so we'll get more into all that later, but what's important right now is this list box. Okay, so what we're going to use a list box for is to display output. Think of it sort of like an output label, except now we're doing multiple lines. We can do as many lines as we want in this list box. Let's go to the toolbox, and if we look under here, under all Windows Forms, definitely you'll find it. Scroll down to list box. Make sure that's what you're selecting. Of course, you're going to drag it over and drop it just like you've done with all controls before. When you drop it, I mean, it'll be a certain size, and of course you can resize it. You've got these resize handles all over the place, all right, that allow you to manipulate it to however you like. And also you've got, in design view, you're going to have this, all right, LST. That's actually LST. The prefix for list box is LST. Payments, that's what I named this list box. Okay, so if I go over here to my properties window and look, there's LST payments. So the first thing I do is I go up here to name and rename it, LST payments. Now in design view, that name always appears in the list box. Okay, but when I actually run the program, that goes away. So it's only in design view that you see that, so don't be alarmed by it. There's nothing you can do about it. Just that's what it is. All right. Now, some of the properties that I want to pay attention to. Now, there's not a text property. Okay, there's no text property from a list box for a list box. The way that we control the text, well, it is the way that we control the text. It's actually the items property. All right, that's actually kind of, it's a unique type of property. It's actually what's referred to as an object collection. It's special. This is going to hold everything that appears in that list box. I can even go in and manually, if I click this button here, I can manually enter things that will appear in that list box. So for example, if I wanted this list box to have things appear in it right at the start when the program launches, I could put them in here. That's something that I might do. But that's not what we're going to do here today. What we're going to do here today is we're going to learn how to access that list box from within our code and add things that way. Okay? And that pretty much covers it for the properties of a list box that we're concerned with. You can play around with them. You have things like back color, border style, things like that you've seen before. But anyway, that's it. Now, let's take a look at the calculate button click event handler. All right, so I go in here and move some things out of the way, and let's resize this. So there's the event handler. When we click that button, all of this is that event handler. And let's see what it does. The first thing we do, well, I've got some comments here, of course, but right here, LST payments, that's the name of the control. Okay, that's what I named it. You can name it whatever you want yourself when you're programming your own list boxes. So to access it, just like with any other control, it's no different. I'm gonna use the name. Anytime I use the name of a control from my interface, though, remember it's followed by a dot, the dot operator. But now a list box is a little bit different because this is one where, like here, I'm accessing the items property, which is call it a property. All right, so I'm accessing a property, just like we've done in the past, like using the text property or whatever else. Okay, no different than that. But here, I don't think we've seen this before. I'm using the dot operator again. This is all a part of the same thing to access a method. And I'm applying this method to the items on that list box. So this method clear, all right, so I know it's a method because it has parentheses, all right. That's one way I know it's a method. Methods always have a set of parentheses after them. So I'm going to write capital C and then LEAR. It's important that I use a capital C. It's important that I use capital I, so on and so forth. The parentheses, though, in this case, this is a method that I don't have to send any arguments. So I don't put anything in the parentheses for clear, because all clear does is it clears out that list box. So anything that might be in that list box is cleared out when I run that command. Okay? So anytime you want to clear your list box, all you have to do is write this statement, except, of course, put in the name for whatever. If you named your list box something else, you'd put that name in there. Okay? But that's how I clear a list box. Now, why do I want to clear the list box? A lot of times that's what we want to do from the start. And the reason why is because if, let's say somebody ran that program, they put in one set of loan criteria and then click the calculate button. Then they put in another set of loan criteria and click the calculate button. So I have, previous output on that list box. If I don't clear it, then any new output is appended to the old. It will appear after the old, and it'll keep adding up like that. Sometimes you want that, but in this case, I don't. I want to clear out any previous results. So that's why a lot of times we'll do this as the first statement. Okay? The first thing that we do to a list box is clear out the previous output. So in other words, the default nature of it is to append any new output to old. If you want that, that's great. Leave out the clear. If you don't, add in the clear. Okay? Now, down here, we're going to add a header to our list box because, that's just what I want to do. All right? So this header is going to say months, and then it's going to say monthly payments. So I'm creating column headers. So below months will be the number of months for the loan. And then under monthly payments will be the payment based on that, loan length again. Okay? So that's what the header's for. That's not so important as this is the add method. So this is a new method. Again, I'm going to add something to items for LST payments. All right? Now this time add has to have arguments though. I have to tell it what to add. Okay? And in this case, I'm adding a string literal. Now, it's a string literal because, well, for one thing, under Visual Studio, it appears red. That's how I know. The other way I know, of course, is because of the double quotes surrounding this string. So I got double quotes right there. So that creates a string literal, all right, as opposed to a string variable, all right? Now, inside the string literal, though, we got some things going on here. It's going to print capital M O N T H S, and then I got /t and /t. What does /t mean? Well, first of all, backslash, all right, that's the backslash. That's called the escape character. The escape character. What that does is it takes away the normal meaning of the one character that immediately follows it. In this case, I've got a T following it, so I got that one character. All right. The normal meaning of a T is just the letter T, just like this T right here, or this T right here. They're just normal T's. That's the normal meaning of a T, but if I put a backslash in front of it, the normal meaning goes away, and in this case, it becomes a tab. So /t is an escape sequence that means tab. So backslash is the escape character, and we put it together with something to make an escape sequence. In this case, an escape sequence. Okay. So in other words, the T has special meaning, and yeah, that's it. Now I've got two of them in a row, so that means I'm going to do two tabs. I'm going to print out months and then tab twice and then print out monthly payments. Why? Because that's what I chose to do. All right. I could put as many /t's together as I want. Each one's going to do a tab. Okay. So if you just need to put one, that's fine. If you want to put 50, go ahead. It's going to look bad, but you can put as many as you want. All right. So that's pretty much it for the car payment calculator for right now. We'll look at the full program later on, but the important parts here are the list box, clearing the list box, adding to the list box. Okay. Now let's go over here, and I'm going to show you some other escape sequences that you might be interested in. /n is new line return. All right. So again, I'm taking away the normal meaning of an n, and it becomes the escape sequence new line. So it's going to basically take the cursor down to a new line, put it at the beginning of that new line. All right. So that's what that is. Now I could also do things like this. Let's say I wanted to do, I'll tell you what, let's do this. What would that do? That would do print out months, then take the cursor down to the beginning of the next line. So it'd create a new line, and then it'd tab, and then print monthly payments. Okay. So what I'm showing you by this is that we can mix them together. All right. So we can put different ones together. All right. So I'll put it back like that. And let's see, we've also got /r. You probably won't use that one, but that's just to bring the cursor back to the beginning of the current line. Now, //. What happens if I want to print a backslash? I mean, backsplash is special. Okay, it's the escape character. Well, if I put a backslash in front of a backslash, this would normally mean the escape character, this backslash right here. But if I put a backslash in front of it, it takes away the normal meaning, and it just becomes a regular old backslash. Okay? So this two backslashes together would have the effect of actually escaping the normal meaning of backslash. And I could use it to print out a backslash. Same thing with a double quote. Normally a double quote is a delimiter for a string, the beginning and ending of a string. If I want to take away that normal meaning, I put a backslash in front of it. Now it's literally just a double quote. I could use it to print out a double quote by doing this sequence right here. Okay? So those are some escape sequences. There are more than that, but those are the most useful. Let's see. Let's come down here. And this is tying up doing some odds and ends here. Want to look at some new operators. This is increment. Plus is increment. Okay. Now we've got pre-increment. So pre-increment is where plus appears in front of a variable. And this is post-increment, where it appears after a variable. Okay? All it does is it takes that variable takes whatever's currently in it, adds 1 to it, and then stores the result back in that variable. So it increments by 1, and that's it. So these statements, all 4 of these statements are equivalent. Okay, we could use the shortcut assignment, or we could do this the long way where we say num becomes num plus 1, and that's that. So if you want to add 1 to something real quick, this is the preferred way to do it. If you want to add something else, there's nothing for that. So if I want to add 2 to something, there's no shortcut for that. You have to do it one of these ways, similar to that. Okay. Now, which one do I choose, pre or post? And here, you're never going to be in a situation where it's going to make a difference. They're going to behave the same. For most cases, they behave exactly the same, and you can use either one. There actually is a difference, okay? And I won't go into the details. It's a little bit more advanced. But I normally use this one, pre-increment. I just like the way that looks, and you can choose whichever one you like.